It is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. As you can see, all councillors have the purple ribbon. So I'll just read a declaration to explain the ribbon. We are wearing purple ribbons this evening in support of the Purple Ribbon Campaign. During the campaign, which runs from November 25th to December 10th, purple ribbons are worn to bring attention to the organizations working with women who are abused and to raise awareness of violence against women. Thank you to Juniper House in Yarmouth for its awareness work and for all they do for the women victims and their children in the community. We will start the meeting. We need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Thibault, seconded by Councillor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion carried. 2B, are there any items on the agenda that brings you to a conflict of interest? If not, we will go on to 3 presentations. 3.1 CERMAC, Vicky Savoie and Cassie Verka.
Okay. Bonsoir et merci tout le monde.
Good evening and thank you everyone to having invited me here to make the presentation at your meeting. I am visiting my father this week and I do not speak French. It is very bad French. So
I'm here today. Sorry, I struggled through that, but there was going to be a price to pay if I didn't at least incorporate a little bit of my French from back home. Thank you so much again for having us. I'd like to first introduce the team members that I have with me here today. Up until recently, I was able to have the claim to fame of being CERMAC Canada's only Nova Scotian employee, but I'm happy to say that I've recently been joined by Melinda Cole, our Sustainable Development Coordinator, who's based in our Guysborough office. She's here tonight on like her 8th day on the job, and she's quite happy to not have to be the one up here presenting tonight. I'm also joined by one of my colleagues from British Columbia, Cassie Perka, the License and Development Officer for our team out there. And then I'm Vicky Savoie, and I'm the Sustainable Development Director, East Coast, for our company. I'd like to, I guess, just set the tone a little bit for our presentation. I do have a presentation to give this evening. Cassie will be here as well to kind of jump in, given her experience on the West Coast, and then we'll be happy to entertain questions afterward. So opportunities in Nova Scotia. So who is CERMAC Canada? We're the second largest salmon farming company. We're based on Canada's west coast. We have a head office in Campbell River, but we have multiple areas of activity all in and around Vancouver Island. So we have leases on both the east and west coast of Vancouver Island. In order to support our... Is that better? In order to support our operations with our 25 farm licenses, we have 4 hatcheries. We also have a processing plant that we operate in Tofino. But we also contract out one of our processing facilities as well in some of our operational areas. That's a model that we're used to. And our employment numbers are about 250 to 300 employees, depending on harvest activity in the region. For us, this is a really comparable, I'm going to be speaking a lot about our operations in British Columbia. There's some elements of our operations that will be really comparable, one of which is the level of production that we have in BC. It's just over 20,000 metric tons, and that's an important number for us here in Nova Scotia as well. There are other elements, such as the types of farming systems that we're using in BC that aren't as comparable. One of the things that we bring as far as our knowledge in salmon farming is the fact that we do have a global, we have Cermaq Global, which is our kind of umbrella organization, which also operates both in Norway and in Chile. So we draw upon the expertise, even though we're run as kind of three separate entities, we do have crossovers between all of our production areas. And because of that, we bring kind of a global perspective to all of our operating areas, but also we allow for that information to be exchanged between the regions. Why that's an important distinction for our interest in Nova Scotia is that it's likely that our operations here in Nova Scotia will, as far as the infrastructure is concerned, will more closely mimic that found in Norway. So the opportunity that we see in Nova Scotia, forgive me, getting over a cold. So we are looking to grow our business in Nova Scotia, and that number that I mentioned earlier of 20,000 metric tons is our target level of production in this region. What does 20,000 metric tons look like? That would require approximately 20 farm sites or 20 leases all across the province. So in all of the potential farming areas across the province, we would need up to 20 farm sites. The support infrastructure on land that would be required would be about 4 hatcheries, 2 processing plants, as well as the marine infrastructure that I mentioned that would be related to those 20 farm sites. Because we have the comparables of the BC coast, and again, that level of production, we're anticipating that the jobs and careers that could be created through our entire operations would be around that same level of 200 to 300 employees. We are, as we do in our operations in BC, we're always looking for opportunities to add value to the region by partnering with other local industry participants. And as I mentioned in BC, we have 2 different models depending on the coast of the island that you're looking at. With, in one area, we have our own processing facility. And in another area, we contract out that processing part of our business to a local partner. Those are both streams that we're really comfortable exploring here in Nova Scotia, and something that we're hearing as we begin to speak with communities and businesses in the different regions in which we're interested. We're getting ideas as to how we can provide value, so we would like to hear from communities directly and from industry participants directly what value they see our operations could bring, and then we can assess as to whether or not we can meet those needs or interests as we move through our feasibility work. If approved, our expansion would effectively double our Canadian operations. There are a couple of reasons why that 20,000 metric tons is a really critical number for us as a company. Because we have no assets and no activities in this province at this time, we would have to be assured that we could achieve that level of production to allow for kind of the long-term profitability, and it allows for things like that on-land infrastructure to then be built and resourced right from the get-go, from the ground up. When it comes to the areas and the point at which we're at in the process, just to kind of take it back a step, we're in a part of the regulatory process in Nova Scotia for participants who are interested in developing new aquaculture sites called the options approval. So we have several options to lease approved in the province. One is in St. Mary's Bay. We have several in Guysborough County and Richmond County. And then recently, 2 more were announced in Mahone Bay and St. Margaret's Bay. What the option period entails is it allows us as a company a defined amount of time, so an initial 6 months with the possibility to extend for a second 6-month period, within a defined area. So our option areas within those bays or regions are defined on maps. They have coordinates associated with them. They are bigger portions than would be required for farming. The purpose of the options during that period of time is to allow for us as a company to collect the biophysical information that we would need to make a good assessment of that area, a proper assessment of that area, to see whether or not it's feasible for our farming systems. And most importantly, during that option period, it allows us to have the two-way dialogue and conversations with those communities to see how our operations may or may not fit into the social context in those regions. It's over that period of time and through those 2 streams of investigation, so through the social context evaluation, but also through the biophysical evaluation, we will have to, as a company, reach that determination if it is in fact feasible for us to find up to those 20 farm sites in Nova Scotia. Once the option period ends, or before the option period ends, we will have to make a decision as to whether or not we are going to apply for any leases in any of those areas. So we have not applied for a lease yet. We're still in the process at a really early stage of evaluating whether or not this is going to work for us as a company and whether or not this is going to work for Nova Scotians. And then we'll make that determination. And then there's an additional process for the actual application period, which I won't get into today, but maybe at a later date I'll come back and present on that one if we're successful. I just wanted to present a map of the option area in St. Mary's Bay. I don't have the other option area maps as part of this presentation. However, all of their option maps are available on our hellonovascotia.ca website, as well as our applications that we submitted for the granting of our options, which provides a lot of information relevant to our interest in Nova Scotia and our plans should we be successful in identifying sites. So between those 2 red lines is the portion of St. Mary's Bay that we're allowed to, again, collect some biophysical information, do a desktop analysis, run some modeling based on the information that we've collected in order to understand whether or not our farming systems are going to be appropriate for that area, as well as identify who we should be talking to and how we should be communicating with a variety of stakeholders in the region in order to understand how they view our potential interest or development for this region. I've additionally included a map. So as we go through this iterative process, we have determined some areas that are based not on communication or consultation with any particular group or organization. This is our first crack at some areas that we think would work from a very limited amount of biophysical criteria. In particular, depth is a big one for us. So this is where we thought we could start a conversation about whether or not these areas would have any reactions or impacts to current activities in the region. And we could start to eliminate sites that we think could work, again, from the very limited information that we have. Or we could start to move potential lease boundaries or proposed areas around in order to, again, have that back and forth dialogue. This is one way in which we've approached proposed developments in the past. It may not be the most appropriate way to approach it in this region or in other regions. We're really starting to learn how to best communicate with folks in the various regions. There's no one-size-fits-all to this process. Why are we looking at expanding in Nova Scotia in particular? We see a lot of potential for this region. When we do an initial look at the coastline, and again, look at some of the criteria that might be available as part of a desktop analysis, we do see room for growth potential based on our farming technology. Certainly Nova Scotia's proximity to markets is really attractive. Alignment with a really strong commitment to high quality seafood products that come from this region is something that we see as advantageous and something that we feel as though we could contribute to. We have been impressed during our investigations in all parts of this province to the commitment of sustainable development of the ocean resource, which is something that we are leaders in our industry space as well. We see the ability to create new relationships and build on shared value. We believe, and we'd like to demonstrate that we feel as though we can contribute to rural coastal communities in Nova Scotia in a really positive way. That's going to take time to demonstrate within the areas in which we're interested across the province. We're really looking, as we embark on community engagement and dialogue, we're looking to identify what are the values or offsets that we could bring to communities. And again, we're willing to look at a number of ways in which we can find solutions or opportunities that are specific to the needs of communities. We think that there's, quite a lot that we can bring, but we'd really like to hear from communities what they think might be most impactful to their regions and having us come along. When we talk about our collaborative approach, we're interested in exploring new marine and community infrastructure. We think that we bring new demographics along with our workforce. Just as a bit of an aside, we have a really strong Atlantic Canadian workforce on the West Coast. So a number of individuals that work on our farms who are East Coasters have already identified that should our development move on beyond this initial options period, that they'd like to have their names on the list for transfers to any farms here in Nova Scotia. So we see that as really positive for us in some regards, but kind of sorry to see them go from the West Coast in other regards. We have a lot to share. We're looking for opportunities for shared research. Even at this really early stage, we think that it's key, even if we don't decide to develop in Nova Scotia. There are some benefits derived even from this evaluation period or feasibility period for Nova Scotians. We take time from people who input into our evaluation. They provide us with their opinion, they come to meetings, they show up, and we really do want communities to derive value, even at this early stage. One of those ways we think might be of benefit is as we're doing our feasibility work, there are pieces of information that we're collecting about the marine resource that's adjacent to these communities that might be beneficial beyond just our interest, but in more general terms, there could be some biophysical data that other participants might be able to use. That would be a way in which we can hopefully find some collaborative paths even at this early stage. What we've heard, so since announcing back in April our interest in Nova Scotia, we have heard from a lot of different folks from a lot of different parts of the province. What I find is that even at this really early stage where we haven't come in to do kind of formal community engagement, people have been engaged. They've been sending in comments or messages or requests to meet through our Hello Nova Scotia website. People are checking out we have a monthly newsletter that comes through, so people are engaging through that as well. Now that we have an office established up in Guysborough, some people are dropping in there, and we've been trying to really understand, and we see we've been taking all and any advice that's come our way about who we should be talking to, how we should get in touch with them, what types of information people might be interested in. So we are looking for as much advice as we can. I find it's been multi-layered. So oftentimes, the more people I talk to, the more suggestions I get about other people who definitely need to be engaged with along the way. All that said, we do plan more formal and broad engagement as part of our process. And we're hoping to embark on that early in the new year. When we talk about finding shared value, one of the things that's interesting about the conversations that we have either with different stakeholder groups, with associations, with academic institutions, with municipal units, we're listening. So we're listening to the things that, again, are important to communities. And it sometimes takes people a little bit off guard how open we are to having conversations about what that shared value looks like. We're looking to communities to tell us what their interests are, where those points of common ground are, and then seeing whether or not we can find either, we have lots of examples from our other operational areas, but again, we really feel as though our development in Nova Scotia will be uniquely Nova Scotian and will likely come down to those communities in which we're interested in developing to guide us along and figure out how our business can best incorporate into their region. This one's a bit of a busy slide, and I won't spend too much time on it, but again, I thought it would be beneficial to draw upon some of the examples and some of the potential comparables from our operations on the West Coast. We look at some of the direct benefits to the region. We contract 55 local businesses within the region on services, and those are pretty wide-ranging services depending on what activity, we're focused on anything from kind of direct on the farm contract and services such as our harvest boats. Those are under contract. We look at our divers, net cleaners, transportation, and then kind of getting more onto what we bring to the local community. There's lots of opportunities for catering, our events around our operations. We've tried to quantify all of those different support services. When it comes to our employees and some of the direct benefits that exist there, we tend to have generally quite a young workforce. Our average employee age is typically under 45. We have a variety of career opportunities. I think we're a demonstration of some of the career opportunities, but they're far more beyond we're all part of the same team in the Environmental Sustainable Development team, but when it comes to some of the on-farm, more entry-level positions, a lot of our positions, even on the farm now, tend to be quite technically advanced because we're constantly incorporating new technology into how we're farming. We offer a comprehensive medical and dental package to all of our employees, along with competitive salaries and a bonus structure. We tend to be an employer of choice in the areas in which we operate in BC. This is a terrible slide because you can't really see the numbers, but as a demonstration, and I'll just use the pointer, this is the average salary, annual salary in the regions in which we operate in BC. And then this bar indicates the average annual salary of our employees, which is above all of our current operational areas. And then this last one is the average annual salary when you take into account the benefits package that comes along with our employment. We also look to contribute to the local communities through sponsorship and donation. We try and align those with our corporate culture, with some of our strategic priorities as a company, but also those are often informed by the local community as well. So there's a variety of things that we support, and we try and keep those well aligned with our values, which is often well aligned with the community's values. What does a typical farm look like? Again, we've drawn some pictures, or we've taken some pictures from different operational areas. These are from Norway, because again, we feel as though farms in Nova Scotia would be most closely aligned or set up, such as those in Norway. So a total of 10 to 14 cages per lease site. They'd be serviced by a feed barge with an automated feeding system. We're comfortable on the West Coast to have fishing activities proceed within our lease boundaries. Obviously, they can't come within the actual cage systems themselves, but oftentimes the lease boundaries are to incorporate the moorings or the anchoring systems, which are underwater. And then why Cermak? For us, we are an open and accountable company. We've been rated the most transparent salmon farming company in the world several years running. We put all of our information out there. We openly disclose much of our operational information. Our people, we have a group of really dedicated people who are passionate about the ocean environment and passionate about our farming activities. We're dedicated to healthy and thriving oceans. That runs throughout our corporate culture, and we were signatories to the Oceans Platform of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So that's something that, again, is really aligned with our priorities within our corporate culture and within our day-to-day activities right down to the farm. We really believe in long-term investment in communities and relationships is the biggest determinant of our success. That's why we're taking our time in this region to really understand as to whether or not we can have and develop those relationships with communities in Nova Scotia, because we know that that's again, the biggest determinant to our success as a company. That's it. Thank you.
As-tu des questions, any questions? Maybe I'll just start. I don't usually start with the question, but it's just, I see we have a few fishermen here, and I did receive a few phone calls this afternoon. So maybe it'd be beneficial to explain the public consultation and how you plan to approach that in the new year. And tonight is more or less, from what I understood, to come here to introduce yourselves to the community. But I think for the fishing community, which do, in fairness, have a lot of concerns, I think they want to hear when they will have the opportunity to address you and ask those questions. So.
Absolutely. So thank you for the question. Yes, I'd like to just first and foremost say that today's presentation is just that. It's a presentation to introduce ourselves, to get some information out in a different format. However, the process that we are most used to and comfortable with, and that will be crucial for us as a company in our development prospects, is one that includes a two-way dialogue between certainly a number of stakeholders. I would say that fishermen in particular, given the nature of our proposed development in the marine resource that's used quite heavily and sustainably by fishermen. They are a key group that we have spoken to in really informal conversations up until now, but there is a need for formal dialogue, I think, between either associations, opportunities. Something that we've done in other regions of the province is to host meetings, information sessions that are specific to fishermen. We fully plan to have broader community engagement as well, but we do see the fishing industry as distinct given, again, the nature of our proposed development. And sometimes it's beneficial to allow for that dialogue between industries to take place. They're more than welcome to come to any of the sessions that we have for other stakeholders as well, or the broader community. We have been learning as we go in each area, trying to identify how, when, and who we should be talking to. Given the fact that fishing season is getting underway in this region, we thought it best to allow for that season to get up and running and to determine a time in which fishermen can engage with us outside of their most active fishing time. So we're really looking for advice on, again, when, how, and who can help facilitate those conversations. We're hoping for early in the new year to host sessions specific to fishermen as well as for the broader community as well. And that will be, those are, again, our most interesting interactions with communities, because that's really when you get to the point of it and you start to understand what's important to different members of that community, they can get a bit more understanding and get a bit more pointed in what their interests are or what their questions or concerns are about our proposed development. And at the same time, they're incredible resources for us to learn from to really complete our evaluation about the potential for our business. So absolutely, this is just a presentation, and we look forward to having a two-way dialogue when that's most appropriate for the members of the community and of the fishery.
Till d'autres questions? Any other questions? Carl, conseiller de.
Merci, Monsieur le Préfet.
Thank you.
One of the maps that you were showing us, you were showing the farms inside the estate money. So has there been any thoughts at all about having farms on the other side of the bay, where I believe there was farms there before, or do the farms have to be on our fishing grounds where we?
So the current area that we have approved. The current area that we have approved in the region is within St. Mary's Bay. We would not be able to apply for anything outside of those boundaries during this option period. Lowever, if we did see potential in another area, we could always apply for another option that had different boundaries to look at. It's not our intention right now to apply for additional options. That being said, we are still learning about both the resource and the area. So we'd like to, if there are pieces of information that we've overlooked, if there are parts of the resource that may be more appropriate or may be interesting from either, again, that community perspective or from the biophysical perspective, we're really interested in hearing that feedback. Our initial look at that region outside of the bay seems a bit too dynamic for our systems, but that's, again, based on a really limited knowledge and the information that we have at hand. If more information can kind of flow through our process, then we'd be happy to look at other regions.
D'autres questions? Conseiller Leblanc.
Any more questions, Councillor LeBlanc?
Anybody looking for more in-depth information or anything on that, would it be like easy enough for us to send them on the Hello Nova Scotia, or would there be any other forms of information available for them?
So certainly through the website, when you submit anything through the website, and it can be anything from looking for really specific or technically related information, more in depth. There is somebody at the end of that comment box, and we do get back to you. We have, I guess, some of the ways in which we can engage beyond just our broad community meetings, which we hope to have more in-depth information and allow for experts in different areas of our business to be able to speak to those pieces. We also I have parts of our team who travel to Nova Scotia from British Columbia on a regular basis. Those individuals, such as Cassie, have expertise in different areas. That's one way in which during their visits we can align either kind of specific interests. So sometimes when we get comments through the Hello Nova Scotia website, if there are people interested in a particular area of our business, I try and align them with the experts when they're here. Otherwise, there's kind of those traditional methods of, emailing back and forth, certainly meeting face-to-face. Our newsletter does contain quite a lot of information. You can find all of our newsletters on the website as well. That's talked a lot about the different parts of our process, but also talks or speaks to our way of farming, some of the concerns that we've heard. We have frequently asked questions. So we're trying to get as much information out there. So certainly through the website, I can leave my contact information as well. And Melinda and I are here and on the ground. You can reach us before noon, which is unlikely in BC given the time difference. So you can always capitalize on that.
Any other questions? Papa, I don't know if you mind after, there's a few fishermen, I think, who have some questions. If you mind, when you leave, if you want to meet with them a few minutes, if you'd have a few minutes for them or not. But
Absolutely.
okay.
Yep,
So
no problem.
Mind.
Yeah, good, because I couldn't hear it. Since I've been sitting here, I don't know what you were saying.
Okay. Sorry about that.
One of my questions was,
Maybe you guys can meet after
well,
the presentation.
I'm happy to.
okay.
If you don't
I'm happy to. I'll meet with you. Sure.
Because the reason I wanted to ask a question is because I've got quite a few calls today, like my
Yes.
colleagues.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise to me, and I just wanted to know if this was, one of the main questions is why did you pick St. Mary's Bay?
Yeah. Well,
I think everybody that's what I'm gonna be watching what I said on the TV 2 nights from now, because I never heard a thing of your presentation. I forgot my hearing aid at the house, so anyway, but I wanna talk to you.
Okay.
so
Because
Absolutely.
If the people that will be watching, that's one of the questions they wanna know, why? So if we could have that answer, I would appreciate it.
Well, if you want to answer that question, but excuse me, the policy, like the way council operates is we can't open up the floor to questions usually because that's, yeah, for council, but you guys can meet with the group after. So if you want to answer that, if you don't mind answering that question, and then the fishermen can meet with you after, so.
Sure. I'm afraid you won't hear, but I'll repeat it in the hallway as well, and you can watch it on the TV. So when it comes to the areas that we narrowed down along the coastline, again, that was based on a very limited understanding. Some of the things that we looked at was the data that was available from each region. We looked at, in particular, depth. What we thought might be some sheltered areas. And when you look at the coast of Nova Scotia, that's a really difficult combination to achieve. So oftentimes when you get to the depth that we're looking for, you're not within a sheltered bay, you're more exposed, which means that you have to deal with more dynamic forces on your infrastructure systems. So those were kind of the two main criteria that we looked at. But again, through this process, we had very limited information in order to make that initial evaluation. And this is the time in which we need to collect the information to become either further interested or allow for our investigation to tell us whether or not there's feasibility in any given area.
Can you
Thank you.
make
Well-
a comment to the council, not a question?
Well, not really. See, this is a formal council meeting, so it's not a public meeting, and it's not my intention, but the practice has always been, and we often get asked that question if the public, so if we do allow that, then meetings kind of tend to get out of control since we have quite a packed agenda. But
Can we bring them in the other room?
yeah, exactly, yeah. So thank you for your presentation.
We will move on to item 4, adoption of the minutes at 4.1, October 16, 2019, regular council meeting. Any errors or omissions? Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. 4.2, November 13, 2019, the council in committee meeting. Any errors or omissions? Moved by Councillor DeVoe, seconded by Councillor Hill. All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried.
5, business arising from previous meetings. There's nothing there. We'll go to 6, warden's activity report. October 17th, I went to a meeting for the committee for the nomination of the Council of Governors at Université Sainte-Anne. On October 18th, I went to a presentation, I presented for the success of the Clare Health Center in Digby at the Association of Municipal Administrators. From the 18th to the 20th of October, Stefan and I assisted to the annual general meeting of the FAN in Halifax, in Dartmouth. October 21st, I went to a meeting for the St. Mary Church. 24 October, I went to the Saint Cassette for organized by the Saint-Denis to honor the businesses in Clare. And October 27th, I went to the Clare Curling Club 20th anniversary, and I presented a certificate on behalf of the council there. I've been curling for 20 years. It doesn't feel like that. On October 29th, I went to the meeting of the REN, Councillor LeBlanc and I. October 31st, I went to the meeting of the governance committee of the Armette Hospital Foundation. November 1st, I went to the governor and council meeting at the Université Saint-Anne. And from the 5th to the 8th, it was the NSFM conference in Halifax. A lot of councillors were there. November 11th was the ceremony for Remembrance Day at the Clare Veterans Center. Councillor DeVoe and I put the wreath. It was appropriate because Councillor DeVoe is also a veteran, so it's good that we have a veteran on municipal council. November 15th, I went to a planning meeting for the strategic plan for the Saint-Denis, and I think that's it. I should say last night, I didn't put in my report, but it was the annual general meeting for the Clare Acadian Festival. They presented a balanced budget and activities for the year. It was a big success for another year. So I know I went through it quickly. I don't know if you have any questions. If not, we'll go to 7, official statements from members of council. Are there official presentations? Councillor DeVoe. Thank you, Mr. Warden. First, I'd like to thank the council to thank me for giving me the opportunity to put the wreath on November 11th. It's very special for me and my family. So what I'd like to present tonight is I would like to, and Mr. Warden, before I say this, I would just like to say that I had the permission from the person to say what I'm going to say tonight. A few months ago, we cleaned the boat that was on the wharf in Comoville that the people were very happy about. And after we cleaned the bigger part of it, there were still spikes and nails and different things lying around. So one person from Comoville, Hector Leblanc, that I would like to recognize because he is in a wheelchair, and he took his time to go down to the wharf with a magnet, and he would tie the magnet to his wheelchair and go from one side to another to pick up all the nails and everything else that had stayed behind. And when he was finished doing that, he took a four-wheeler and he put a shovel on it and just flattened everything out again. It's cleaner than it was when they built the wharf years ago, I think. So for a person who has some disabilities, who cannot walk, I would like to thank him publicly. I would like to publicly thank Hector Leblanc for going there and doing something there that wasn't easy for him, I'm sure. So I would just like to thank Hector Leblanc to help us clean up the wharf. Thank you. Are there other official presentations? Deputy Warden Dusa. I'd like to mention Willis Como, who was member of Rails to Trails, who was there, I would say, since the beginning, who was working on the trail from Hectanuga up to St. Bernard for several years. He finally retired from this committee, and I'd like to thank him for his work on the work. He was on the maintenance crew, so whatever happened on the trail, I think he'd still do it today if we called him. He he'd have the time, he'd do it. He's someone like that, so I would like to thank him with a letter. Do you all agree to send him a letter? Are there other presentations, official presentations? I just have a couple of things, 2 suggestions. I think it would be perhaps appropriate to send a letter to Colin Fraser to thank him for his representation for Southwest Nova and to have worked with us, if you all agree with that. And the second letter would be that I would like for council to send a letter to Chris D'Entremont to congratulate him and to come meet council when he has the chance to have a discussion on our priorities. If you all agree with that? If there aren't any more official presentations, we'll go to correspondence. 8.1, letter from the Honorable Gordon Wilson, Minister of Environment.
LeBlanc. On behalf of Premier McNeil, I am responding to your letter of September 19, 2019, regarding the future of Northern Pulp and the closing of Boat Harbour. Protecting the environment is my priority. Northern Pulp registered the Effluent Treatment Facility project for Class 1 environmental assessment on February 7, 2019, as required under the EA regulations. On March 29, 2019, Margaret Miller, Minister of Environment at the time, released a decision concerning this review. The minister determined that the registration information was insufficient to make a decision on the project and that a focus report was required. EA is a planning tool used to promote sustainable development by evaluating the potential environmental effects of major developments before they proceed. Through the EA process, a careful review is conducted of all the information provided, including public comments, input from the Mi'kmaq, science and expert government review to determine potential environmental impacts related to the proposed project. On October 2nd, 2019, Nova Scotia Environment received the focus report for the replacement effluent treatment facility project. Copies of the focus report may be examined at the following locations: the Pictou Library, the New Glasgow Library, and on the EA website at www.novascotia.ca/NSE/EA. The public is invited to submit written comments to Environmental Assessment Branch, Nova Scotia Environment, P.O. Box 442, Halifax, Nova Scotia, B3J 2P8, on or before November 8, 2019, or contact the department via fax at 902-424-6925 or via email at ea@novascotia.ca. Please note that all comments received from the public consultation will be posted on the department's website for public viewing. In the case of an individual, the address, email, or contact information will be removed before being placed on the website. By submitting your comments, you are consenting to the posting of your comments on the department's website. Thank you for bringing your views forward. I appreciate your interest in this project. Sincerely, Gordon Wilson, Minister of Environment.
So that was a response to the letter that we had sent to ask them to look at, to prolong the period that they had to make sure that the wood industry doesn't close in the province and in our community. I don't know if there are any questions or comments. Next, we'll go to 8.2, letter to the Honorable Chuck Porter, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
LeBlanc, thank you for your letter of September 20th, 2019, in which you advised that Council recommends Mrs. Denise LeBlanc as a municipal representative on the board of the Western Regional Housing Authority. I am pleased to confirm Mrs. LeBlanc's appointment. Her appointment is for 3 years and will commence on September 27th, 2019, and will expire on September 27th, 2022. I would like to thank Council for taking the time from their busy schedule to deal with this matter. Sincerely, Chuck Porter, Minister.
Questions or comments? 8.3, letter the Honorable Labi Kousoulis, Minister of Labor and Advanced Education.
Dear Mr. LeBlanc, thank you for your letter of September 24th, 2019 regarding the services of Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse. The department is pleased to have Le CDN involved in the provision of employment services and looks forward to working with them in the coming years. Sincerely, L'Honorable Labi Kousoulas, Minister of Labor and Advanced Education.
That was a response to a letter that we had sent for the Office of Nova Scotia Works here, the employment office, because the contract is coming to an end, and they reapplied to have it in Clare under for French services instead of just having Yarmouth. So it was a letter more or less to make sure that the contract was renewed for another 3 years. 8.4, letter, Janet Hazelton, President of Nova Scotia Nurses Union.
Warden, as you know, our healthcare system faces many challenges. Emergency departments across the province are under immense stress. Patients are being treated in hallways and nurses are working short-staffed. Home care nurses are treating increasingly complex clients and are often pushed to do more in less time. Long-term care staffing continues to be a serious problem. Many Nova Scotians continue to lack access to primary health care when and where they need it. Municipalities across the province are now playing an increasing role in efforts to recruit and retain healthcare professionals for their communities. For this reason, I wanted to share with you some important research produced by the Nova Scotia Nurses Union. Enclosed, you will find a copy of our recent publication entitled Nursing Potential, Optimizing Nursing in Primary Healthcare in Nova Scotia. This evidence-based book will help Nova Scotians better understand the role of nurses and what they can do to help build the primary healthcare system of tomorrow. Our vision is one where collaborative care is central, with primary healthcare doctors and nurse practitioners providing oversight and continuity of care, and where nurses practice to the full extent of their abilities. Our goal with Nursing Potential is to be part of the solution. Beyond pointing out problems, we need to enact changes that nurses and other experts tell us will build a better healthcare system. There is no one fix to the myriad of challenges we face, but enhancing the role of nurse practitioners, primary healthcare nurses, VON nurses, and emergency department nurses with the appropriate supports will go a long way to improving primary healthcare and the health of Nova Scotians. I encourage you to read Nursing Potential and share it with your colleagues, friends, and family. It can also be found online at www.nsnu.ca/nursing potential. If you wish to speak further about any of these issues, please reach out to Lorna Myers at nsnu.ca. Sincerely, Janet Hazelton, President, Nova Scotia Nurses Union.
Questions, comments? We'll go to 8.5, letter from Claudette Theriault, President of the Organizing Committee of CMA 2019. Mr. Warden, from August 10th to 24th, 2019 was the 6th edition of the Congrès Mondial Acadien that marked the 25 years of this important event for the Acadian people. During 15 days, Acadians from all over the world went to Prince Edward Island and southeast New Brunswick for 2 weeks, full of emotions, pride, and parties. On behalf of the organizing committee, we sincerely thank you for your participation at this event. We hope that your presence has responded to your needs, and that you had some great moments. We are very happy that you were able to come to our closing day in Shediac on the 24th. We are confident that Nova Scotia, and particularly Clare and Argyll, will be able to be a magnificent host for the CMA 2024. The success of an event like the CMA is not for every. The success is to see people work together, to see the pride of the Acadians from all over, to see communities work together to show that what they have and that they show who they are. Thanks for your participation. The Congrès Mondial Acadien 2019 had an immense success. The table has been set for you and for other communities to work towards the CMA and develop our Acadie. By thanking you sincerely to have participated at this great adventure, please accept my, my best sentiments. Questions or comments? 8.6, letter Philip Dusa, President from the Clare Shooting Association.
On behalf of the Clare Shooting Association, I wish to thank the municipality of Clare for your grant of $2,500 paid on our behalf this October to our contract, CF Kaiser Mini Excavating and Trucking Limited. This allowed us to make improvements to our backstop and side berm. Philip Doucet, Club President.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Point 9, the Chief Administrator Officer's report. Just an overview of the projects we're working on. For the Echo Park, we have been working on it for a while. It's going forward slowly. A copy of the revised contract for the purchase was sent to the potential purchasers this morning, so we are waiting news from them. Given the nature of the discussions and the contract negotiations, I would like to continue this discussion in camera this evening. For the Veteran Center, we are revising the request for funds that we had prepared to submit it to ACOA. It is a request for a revised request regarding a project of $400,000 to $500,000. In financing, we are looking at a contribution of 67% federal, 33% municipal, and the focus on this would be to have green elements and also the possibility of modernizing the front of the building and elements that could be made inside the current fiscal year. The elements of the original project that are not included in the request for financial from ACOA, we will keep them in mind and might submit a request later on with the approval of the council, of course, to the federal government under the infrastructure programs under rural collectivity. For the Acadian Congress 2024, we will discuss at 11.7 the makeup of executive. When these are named and the criteria established, we are asked by the CMA to sign a protocol agreement as quickly as possible, and we ask that the organizations also be asked to fill in all the other positions on the board of direction and to hire an executive director. For the tourism public spaces, as I mentioned earlier in another meeting, the contract was awarded to England. The study of the sites in Clare have been studied. They met with the council and staff here at the municipality, but we are waiting for the balance of financing from COA, and we are hoping for news around the end of December, early January. But we are in dialogue with ACOA on this project, and we talked with them yesterday, and the results are positive. For the Metegan Park, I will not mention it in my report. We will talk about this at 11.5. For the welcoming community, it is a project that focuses on Francophone immigration and the retention of immigrants in our community. It's not a municipal project or directed by the municipality. It is an important project for the municipality of draft of the plan has been written out and distributed, and we are waiting for the responses from the councillors. But a few challenges that were underlined in the report, which is nothing new. It is lodging and the public transportation, the request for French courses as a second language for the new arrivals, as well as a better coordination of the available resources for the new arrivals. There is a lot of work to do on that plan. It is the first draft. The question of who will take the lead on this and certain specific actions have not been determined, but it is a work that must be done necessarily. One of the recommendations we made to the consultant is that there was a session of public consultation, but the suggestions that we made and communicated by Amy and LeBlanc, our community development, was for more specifics for the immigrants coming to the municipality who have arrived here and what were the challenges that they met, and which aims also the private sector. And they could come here and meet the council and have a good discussion with. The deadline to complete the plan is not known yet. I don't think there is a deadline, but we will have discussions with Immigrations Canada to hope that it will be done sooner than later so that they can go forward with an announcement to announce all the 14 plans across Canada. And Clare is the only one in Nova Scotia, but they would like to have an announcement for these 14 plans across Canada and then work on putting them in place. So it is work that will be done in the next weeks. For the finances, on October 31st, 2019, the municipality had $8,635,508 in revenue, contrary to $5,678,000 in expenses, for an operation surplus of $9,057,100. On October 31st, the municipality had a balance in the operation account of $3,541,746 in its operational and its other operational expense, $93,000, and its capital funds, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. In the operation funds, $3,541,746. In the capital funds, $93,564. Total of $5,421,332 in the reserve funds. The $5 million can be divided in the operations for $400,000, and the capital projects reserve $3,420,088, and the landfill closure reserve $326,692, and in the gas tax reserve $1,222,367. And we have a last amount coming in from the gas tax this year. Usually we at the end of January, early February. The meetings that I attended to since the last meeting, as the warden noticed, I attended to the Acadian Federation meeting and also at the meeting of the Audit Committee for Waste Check as a member, and I participated in the 5 to 7 o'clock in research at university, and I made a presentation on bilingualism, especially here in Clare, and I presented with two professors at the university, Dr. Andrea Burke, Roger Jarvet. Mrs. Burke talked about the bilingual aspects in education, and the other on bilingualism in health. So at the beginning, I felt out of place, but at the end, it was a nice evening. It was fun. There was a good turnout, 20 to 30 people in the room, and there was a good discussion. We are presently working on the revision of our EMO plan. It is something I am working with our coordinator, Mark Doucette, and with my assistant, Ashley, who works on that work. And on November 15th, I had the opportunity to meet Carl Allen of the Vanguard, Carla from the Vanguard, for a general discussion on what is going on in Clare and the different projects are being developed and that are taking place presently. We talked about the former school at St. Albert. We talked about the park in Metegan. We talked about Denise Flynn and the site that she is developing and success stories there. And we will start seeing articles in the Vanguard shortly. On November 18th, we met, our communications committee here met to discuss the communications for the municipality, for the events coming up, with the celebrations coming up. Instead of talking about the meetings I will participate in, I just want to mention the activities that the Recreation Department will hold. The lighting of the Christmas tree will be held on Saturday from 2 to 4 at the hall in Sonyville. There will be skating with Santa Claus on December 17th from 3:30 to 4:30 at University St. Anne's, and there is Christmas in Havelock that will be held on Saturday, December 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Havelock Community Center. So that is my report. Any questions? No questions, so we will go on to 10 committee reports. The Building Committee Construction Report, Councillor Hill.
2018, there were 24 permits issued for a value of construction of $9.9 million. In October of 2019, there was 188 permits for $7,400,000. So we continue to fall a little bit behind, about $2.5 million off last year. So hopefully that'll 20.
As-tu des questions?
Any questions? Okay, we'll go on to new business under 11. I will talk about the process a bit. I talk about it usually, but the way the committee and council meetings, councillors discuss items and make recommendations to bring to the council, and these motions are put on the website to give the chance to the public to look at them before it comes to council. And at the council meeting, regular meeting, the members can come to the meeting and say if they are in agreement or not. We are trying to be as transparent as we can. So when we go through motions like this, these are meeting discussions that took place with the councillors, and this is the regular meeting is open to the public. So council and committee meeting is taking place the first Wednesday of every month. So this is to encourage the people to go to our website every month to see what the council is thinking of bringing to the regular council meeting. So we will go to 11.1, motion to close the department. I don't know if Danny wants to speak about this. We had several meetings.
A long process. We had public meetings in Richfield in May. We met with the residents. We had a lot of discussion at the CFFA meetings and our meeting here. And the residents of Richfield were up, and our main goal, we knew that the department had to close. The residents of Richfield understood that. But the main goal we were trying to do was provide adequate fire protection, because that's the most important thing. And we came to the conclusion that, and the residents of Richfield were okay with it, they understood. And I'd like to thank them, for their participation. And I'd like to thank the Havelock Fire Department, Hectonuga Fire Department, and the Cardinal Fire Department, because they're all in on the discussions. And I think that's about it. Is made, and we made the motion last week to bring it to council tonight. So.
So, notre chose qui va faire la motion.
Does anybody wish to make the motion? Councillor DeVoe? That the municipality of the District of Clare close the Richfield Fire Department and accept the revised service coverage areas for revised for both Havelock and Hectanuga Fire Departments. Does anybody wish to second it by Councillor LeBlanc? So at the last meeting we looked at what the coverage would look like, and the line that was decided on is the 340, if I remember correctly. Once on one side it will be Hectanuga, on the other side it will be Havelock will do both sides of the 340, but Hectanuga will do the rest going down. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried.
11.2, motion to amend the fire truck replacement schedule. So more or less, in negotiating with the other departments to, with the Richfield closure, how it was going to be covered, Havelock more or less requested to council, made a request to council because Field was on the list to have a replaced fire truck, and Havelock was number 811. I'm lost, but it was far down on the list. Havelock asked to have Richfield removed because the department doesn't exist anymore, and for Havelock the position of Richfield because they will cover Richfield. In saying that, Havelock will still have a truck. They're no longer number 11. They would go up the list regardless. So we need a motion to change the list. Councillor Thibault. The municipality of the District of Clare amend the fire truck replacement schedule to move the Havelock Fire Department from the 11th position to the 5th position, which was formerly held by the Richfield Fire Department. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.3, motion to increase operational funding, Havelock Fire Department. So part of the request was to funding for their operations. We had the discussion at the council and committee meeting, and we accepted their request. That one from Havelock is perhaps a little bit higher than what they asked, but it's equal. Does someone want to make the motion? As Deputy Warden Dusa. I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare increase the operational funding for the Havelock Fire Department by $1,000 to help offset the additional costs stemming from the larger coverage area, the closure of the Richfield Fire Department. Does someone want to second the motion? Seconded by Councillor Hill. Is there discussion? Danny?
I note that it was increased from $500 to $1,000 because Hectanuga had requested $1,000, and we thought it was only fair that they both receive the same amount.
Discussion.
Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.4, motion to increase operational funding, Hectanuga Fire Department. So a similar motion for the same reasons. Councillor Hill.
That the council for the municipality of the District of Clare increase the operational funding for the Hectanuga Fire Department by $1,000 to help offset the additional cost stemming from the larger coverage area as a result of the closure of the Richfield Fire Department.
Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Is there discussion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.5, motion to award a grant, Metegan Park Development Association. Talk about this. We were contacted by representatives from the Metegan Park Development Association to look at the possibility to make some reparations to the fence that was that went around the park. It was work that was initially supposed to happen next year, but they are making some preparatory work to replace things. So they thought that it would be good to do all the work now, including the fence, at the same time. So that, and also because the fence is is not secure. There are places where it's starting to fall. And because a lot of people use the park, the members of the associations were afraid that it was a risk for the people who go to the park. So they, through several negotiations, they reduced the cost of for the purchase and installation of the fence to $7,000, and they approached us to see if we're ready to consider a contribution of 50%, so $3,500 towards the installation of the fence. We looked at the evaluation and the recommendation, and the recommendation was for the council to recommend the contribution. Someone want to make the motion? I move that the council for the municipality of the district of Clare award a grant in the amount of $3,500 to the Acadian Family Park Association for repairs to the fence surrounding the park. Seconded by Councillor Thibault. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.6, motion to send a letter of recognition to Daniel Leblanc. As you know, he received the prize Grand Prix, and Councillor Como wanted to bring it up tonight, but he couldn't be here tonight, so he made a motion and he asked for council to present a motion to make sure that it wasn't forgotten. So, Councillor DeVoe. I move that the council for the municipality of the district of Clare send to Daniel Leblanc the 2019 recipient of the Prix Grand Prix Award. Seconded by Deputy Warden Dusa. Is there discussion on the motion? Only to say congratulations to Danielle. That is very well deserved. By saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.7, motion to appoint executive members of the organizing committee of the CMA 2024. Certainly, just as a reminder, Clare and Argyle, we send expression of interest to for the 4 executive positions of what will be the organizing committee of the CMA 2024. The deadline to submit the names were Friday, October 25th. We had received six submissions. We evaluated the submissions here at the municipality, as well as at the municipality of Argyle. And based on our evaluation, we recommend that the 4 be appointed to the executive. So Alistair Sudat as president of the organizing committee of the CMA 2024, Nathalie Robichaud as vice president for the Clare area, Chris Fraughton as the vice president for the Argyle region, and Nadine Como as the treasurer. Does someone want to make a motion? Councillor Leblanc. I move that the council for the municipality of the district of Clare appoint the following individuals to the executive of the organizing committee of the Congrès Mondial Acadien 2024. Vice President Nathalie Robichaud for Clare, Vice President for Argyle Chris Fraughton, and Treasurer Nadine Como. Someone who wants to second? Seconded by Councillor Thibault. In terms of Argyle, I don't know, because it's that need to ratify the list, so I don't know. The motion has not yet been made in Argyle. They will meet soon to make it. I spoke with the CAO there, Alain Muse, and the warden of the municipality of Argyle was on the emails. And they don't see any objection to our choice. They think that Argyle will make the same motion. Is there any other discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion. 11.8, motion to register municipal trademark. This is simply something that we we recently looked at. It's to put a trademark on our logo, and it's just to protect us from the municipal logo. We want to avoid that someone would use our logo. It could lead to confusion, or they could use it for activities that aren't approved by the municipality. So it's just to protect us, our and also to avoid confusion. Does someone want to, Councillor Hill?
I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare obtain trademark registration for the municipal logo.
Okay, can
Someone who, is there discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.9, municipal parking lot on Maxwellton Road. So as you know, we are now the owners of Maxwellton Road. That's our project to ensure that the residents of the municipality have access to our beaches on the shore. That being said, it was recommended. It's something that we had been thinking about for a certain time. We were looking at installing a stone barrier against erosion, especially with the wind and tides that we have during the winter months. It's something that was strongly recommended to us, and we certainly agreed that it's something that we should do. If not, we will lose part of the work that we have done earlier this summer. So with that, we had put out tenders, an invitation to add 3 companies. We had approached 3 companies, and two companies put in a bid. There were questions with them that we wanted to clarify some things. So I spoke with the companies that had submitted, so I did ask the questions that I wanted to ask, and discussing with the company, we came to the realization that we weren't comparing apples and apples. We were comparing apples and oranges. They weren't the types of rocks you had asked for, and they were not the size that was in. And at the end, he said, you know what, I think it's better if you went with another company. It's not that I don't want to do the work. I just think that for this specific work, I don't have the stones that you need from the size that you need, and I think you may be better served by another company. So I thanked him for his honesty and for giving us his time. So it left us with one company to do the work. It's a company that's certainly capable and very well known in this type of work. So all that being said, the recommendation would be to award the contract for the stone barrier for the protection of that area at B&G Lombard Limited for amount that will not exceed 12,000 plus HST. Someone want to make the motion? Councillor Thibault. I move that the council for the municipality of the tender for the installation of a stone barrier to protect the municipal parking lot at Maxwellton Road against erosion to B&G Lombard Limited for an amount not to exceed $12,000 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from the... someone who wants to do second? Councillor Patier, is there discussion on the motion? Councillor Deveau? It's not a big detail, but it was said as C, but it should be G. Is there another discussion, more discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. We're now at number 12, a closed session. There's one item on the closed session. It's 12.1, Eco Park, for those of you that are watching. So we would need a closed session. Moved by Deputy Warden Dusa, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. All in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, motion carried. Good night.